Today, we're looking at Diamine's Evergreen. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine's Evergreen is a green ink. And to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Nemesign Singularity with a fine nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this green is made of a very light blue, a lighter green, and a very dark green across the top. It's very nice. It helps bring some of that depth of color that I've talked about before. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. Now the blue at the bottom is much stronger, much more not wanting to move. There is some of the light blue, the light green. We see some of the yellow that's in here that we did not see before. And of course there's that very dark blue across the top. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it did especially well here. I didn't see any kind of spread or feather or anything that went on. It's like it didn't even notice it. Water reactivates, pulls a majority of this ink up off the page, leaving a kind of light blue with some of the yellows behind. Pen Flush pulls a whole lot more of it up. You see that only the light blue is still there, the yellow's pushed off to the side, but the greens that are in it are completely gone. It does make me wonder if, given a little more time with the Pen Flush or water, how much more would have come up because I only give them 30 seconds. I believe it will only take Pen Flush to get this out of your pen. Bleach, as would be expected, almost completely obliterates it. There's little bits of green left behind, not the blue, which seems to be the more resistant part of this ink. But I don't think it's ever going to take bleach to get this out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Evergreen has a viscosity of 1.99, which makes it a wetter ink. To find my average dry time, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Diamine's Evergreen has an average dry time of 17 seconds. That makes it not only normal, but average. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Shading all over the place. Apparently Evergreen inks shade like crazy. It might be something about the color that just offers the opportunity to truly do a ton of shading, because this one did it, yesterday's did it. Very nice, very nice. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, shading all over the place. Really nice shading all over the place. And a little more drastic than we got yesterday. It definitely jumps tones quickly. In the H to E of the, in the C to K of quick, in the R to O of brown. Nice. Very nice shading. More what I think a lot of people look for. I could be wrong. Let me know. 10 seconds to dry. The medium. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Shading all over. Crazy shading all over. This is what shading looks like. It is fantastic. I don't think it's... There we go. Look at that. Fantastic. Look at brown. Starts light, gets dark, gets light, gets dark, all in one word. Look at the light to light at the top, darker again. Great. I love it when it does that through inks. It's exciting to write with because it's like, you know, where's it going to shade? Where's it going to really draw that attention when you're reading. Nice. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation. We got tons of color variation. The smear test, though, I don't think you could recover it. So, Tomoe River. No bleeding. We get ghosting. I actually want to say that the ghosting's not too bad for Tomoe River. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread. It has halo. All the way around it, halo. Like an angel. No sheen, no shade with the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shading. We lose it on this paper. 17 seconds to dry. The medium has no feather, no spread. It does have a lot of haloing. Not everything's haloed. The darker areas are haloed. No sheen and shading. We're getting halo and shade on Tomoe River in the medium, and it looks glorious. Really very nice. 25 seconds to dry. I'd totally let that happen. Worth it. Extra fine shows no color variation. We got no color variation. The medium shows color variation. You have to look at the far left to far right, compare those of the scrubby to see it. To see that color variation. There we go. I think that's a little better. The smear test, it's Tomoe River. I don't know that you could recover it. Rhodia. Rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, trying to mess with where to position that lens. There we go. I think that's a little better. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It does offer some light shading. Really hard to pin down. The bottom of the G is a little lighter. The E's look a little bit darker. So it just has a dark base tone, and a couple spots are lighter, a couple spots are darker. And it's not tremendous differences, but it is there. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. I'm not seeing the shading here. Not on this paper. 12 seconds to dry. The medium has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It does offer us quite a bit of color variation. In quick, it's got darker on the bottom of the Q. It gets lighter. It gets darker onto the U again. The top of the K is lighter than the bottom of the K. The top of the B is lighter than the bottom of the B. The F is definitely lighter than the OX. Only 18 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby, the extra fine, shows no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. The medium shows a little bit of color variation. I think we see more. The smear test says you could likely recover it. So I put this in an extra fine singularity, and what jumped out at me is the color difference. It looks like an entirely different ink. But I know it's the same ink because it's all from the same sample vial. So the dry fine made a noticeably darker green. I wouldn't even call what's there an evergreen. So, I say test this in your pen on your paper in a little spot and make sure that it's going to give you the color you like. Because I see a lot of this green, but all of a sudden when I'm writing my notes with the singularity, totally different. So I test this on yellow paper, the yellow Rhodia. It has no bleeding, no ghosting, but what does it do with the tone? Well, the tones are all noticeably lighter, which you can expect for the yellow paper, but it's still a very nice looking green. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, it has halo, all over halo. It has no sheen, it offers no shade. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 12 seconds to dry. The medium, we lost the shading on the medium. I'm sorry, everybody. The yellow killed it. The medium has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 18 seconds to dry. It is a noticeably darker tone. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. And the smear test says you could likely recover it. So G. Lalo. It's a laid paper. It's a gray tone. It has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. And this is a dull, uninteresting green on this paper. Noticeably lighter tone with the extra fine, has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 5 seconds to dry.
noticeably lighter tone with the medium. No feather spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation. The smear says you can't recover it if you smeared it. So let's look at a paper that almost never does well. Limon. We do get bleeding spots with the medium. Not too bad with the extra fine. It's always surprising because it's such a thick paper. The 1.1, it spread, it feathered, it had no halo, it had no shade, it had no sheen. It's ugly. It's ugly. So we look the extra fine. The medium, the extra fine. You know, the medium-sized extra fine because it spread. And it feathered. But the feathering at least is small and all over and only makes it blurry. So it's got that going for it. You know, I'm going to call it like it's a good thing. It has no halo, sheen, or shade. 5 seconds to dry. The double broad medium, the medium, it looks like a double broad. This is quite broad. A lot of spread. Lot of feathering. It's blurry. It's ugly. But if spread and ugly feathers are what you want, this is your ink. You have found it. Celebrate that. It didn't do it all over, just here. Just got to have some fun with when it's that bad. No halo, no sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us no color variation. We got no color variation. The smear test says, hey, good news. You smeared it. It's going to look horrible, but you can still read it. So there's that. And that's all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Evergreen, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, green is a great color because it matches so many, and in this case I wanted to go with a very nice brown, which made me choose Krishna's Oak. So what do I think of Diamine's Evergreen? It shades well with every nib that I put it into, but it gives different tones of green with every nib that I put it into. So while it's a great ink and it performs fantastic, if you like green inks, what I suggest is trying it out in a sample form because the tone and the amount of shading can be so different depending on the nib and the paper that you choose. It's wildly different, but this is a fantastic green ink. Thanks for watching.